Greetings and welcome to another episode of Modern Day Mindfulness. Leading on from last week's episode, as I discussed, I would like to open up to Bear Rule and to talk about my journey through depression. I'm going to share some very, very powerful tips and tricks and techniques to actually break yourself free from depression. Before I do, allow me to resonate with you, to connect with you on a deeper level, to be open and honest as always. As to be able to be open and honest with another, we need to first of all be open and honest with ourselves. If we try to deny an aspect of ourselves, a part of ourselves that we do not like, then it will rest within the darkness and it will defy us from the darkness. Depression is to go into a state of deep rest, and it is actually required. It's required in order to stop with the continued trying and struggling to achieve something within the material world, the matrix world, to actually stop, to ground ourselves, to stop trying, to then look for an alternative way. A thought that you have becomes an action that you take. Actions taken over and over time become the habits that you embody, and these habits collectively create the character that you play, that you perform in this game, in this play, in this film that we call life. So it all starts within the mind. You have a thought, you think about doing something, you do it, and then you experience actually doing or being part of that event, that situation within the mind. When you look back at it, you remember it within the mind, and when you look forward to a potential event that you may be fearful of, anxious of, it exists only within the mind. Therefore, I have a question for you. Do you create your own state of feeling? Do you bring about that feeling state of depression or anxiety? In short, nobody can affect your emotions other than you, because they're happening within you. But only by knowing this information do you have any chance to actually go about changing the way that you think, the way that you feel, and as a result, the life that you live. So yes, you have brought upon this feeling state, this state of deep rest, this embodiment of anxiety, etc., etc., yourself. If that means that you are not going to watch this video anymore, then I understand, because it takes a very deep level of understanding and acceptance to go, okay, I've created this, so therefore I can create the alternative. I can actually take myself away from this feeling state, this state of depression, this state of anxiety, and create the life of my dreams. Only by accepting do we have any chance of overcoming. And as I said, I will lead on to the 5 steps to freedom in next week's episode, starting with acknowledgement, which then leads to acceptance. If you do not acknowledge something, you have no way of overcoming it or moving past it or around it. You are a result of all of your past emotions, feelings, all of the events you were part of, all of the learnings that you took upon. This then developed into programs that you run. So for a moment, look at yourself, or picture yourself as a blank computer. We're all born blank. We actually adopt certain information through our DNA, through our bloodlines, as information is stored within water. It is stored within the DNA in our body, the blood that flows around our body, and there it leads on to actually being learnt through programs which our parents give us, that we adopt from them. The people we see around us is the way that we learn. If we see somebody respond to a certain event in a certain way, then we adopt that response. Somebody is fearful of trains, then we would naturally take that fear without actually having experienced any reason to be fearful of trains, other than the fact that the person that we look towards is fearful. So we take it to be the way that it is. Only by re-educating ourselves can we then actually break free from limitations of old, such as depression or any form of phobia, negative emotions, etc., etc. This is what I do. This is what I do with my clients. This is what I do in the meditations that I make on mainstream meditation, as well as within the courses, all housed on greatestversion.club. This is the gift that I have been given, to be able to transcend the limitations of old. And I did it with myself, which is why I'm now able to bring it to you. So how do we change a thought? To think that I have depression leads to the embodiment of depression. So it is the ego self which believes yourself to be depressed. Oh, I have depression. And I've spoke to many people, some very close friends about this in the past, who have told me that they were struggling again, as I did myself. And I said to them, okay, I'll work with you and we'll take it away. We'll break you free from depression. And they're like, well, no, you can't. I've got depression. Like, yeah, so you've got something and we can remove it. No, I'm depressed. I am depressed. I have depression. It's who I am. Okay. So until you get to a point where you're ready to let go of your image of self, there's actually nothing I can do to help you, because the ego will hold on to what it is familiar with. The ego likes to have an understanding of everything, to put things in neat, manageable boxes, especially if you're a male. If you're a man, the masculine energy likes everything straight-lined, everything formed and controlled. If you're John and you have depression, and I say I can take away your depression, then you think, well, hang on, if I'm not John with depression, then who am I? If I don't have depression, then who am I going to be? And without that feeling to be able to attach an image of who you are, to project yourself in that way to the world, to have an understanding, something familiar, something that feels safe and secure, the ego will then go into a state of panic. Better the devil we know. To have depression can actually feel comforting. To get angry, if you're somebody who continuously and always responds in anger, a very angry person, can actually feel comforting getting angry, because it's something that is so familiar, and it will have old events linked to it where you previously felt angry, and as a result it gained you some form of connection to another person, some form of love. So potentially you got angry as a child, and that meant that your mother picked you up and comforted you. It's windy. I'm using the travel stand, so it keeps lowering and it's quite windy. So let's not, Mr. Wind, Mrs. Wind, blow the camera over, please. Everything we do is to keep ourselves, first of all, safe, secondly, to gain some form of happiness. And I know it's peculiar, but the reason that you go into depression is to keep yourself safe. If you're depressed, then you give up trying. If you were to try and to fail, it may cause you an emotional state of distress in some way. You may be ridiculed, you may feel traumatized, you may be shamed. So therefore, depression takes away all of that. For myself, on my journey, going into depression was through the build-up of many things over many years. I had lots of events that I was part of, and each one I not swept under the rug, but I pushed to the side. As being a man, I'm not going to get emotionally upset by it, just push it to the side. Keep pushing it to the side. And when I went into depression, It was nothingness. It was like a dark hole swallowed me up, and in that hole there was nothing. There was no light, there was no anything. And I got to the point where I was so concerned with other people realizing that I was that weak in myself, that in truth being able to express your emotions is a sign of true strength. But at this point in my life, I knew nothing. I knew nothing about mental awareness, about my ability to actually control my thoughts, my feelings, my emotions, and my entire life, to choose the path that I walk towards the destination of my choosing. So all a choice. I knew nothing about this. And it got to the point where I would not even sit and look my ex in the eyes. We'd sit for dinner and I would turn away from her so that I didn't have to look at her, so I didn't have to feel shamed by seeing what I expected to see in her eyes. She only had love for me, she cared for me, she supported me, but I felt so empty and so limited, so worthless, that to have her look upon me was too much. I couldn't bear it. I couldn't bear for the person that I loved to even be able to look at me, because she might see my weakness and she might then not love me anymore. She might decide that I'm not a provider, I'm not a strong man, and that I'm no good, because that is the decision I'd come to, and I didn't want anybody else to see it. And then I went on this journey with getting really massive, becoming 18 stone, of just like walking around like this. What's going on? No wonder I ended up where I did, because I limited my ability to such a short potential of experience. The pathway that I had narrowed down to that of anger and hostility only allowed me to experience that anger and hostility. And if anybody is in a place of depression, the book that I read, which changed my entire life, it started me upon the journey towards self-discovery and has brought me to this point now, and it's going to take me forward to... Just wait and see. You just wait and see where I'll be in another 5 years, because in 5 years' time, not only will I be unrecognisable, but this world will be unrecognisable. I know it's a large task to do within such a short period of time, but it is the time frame that I have been given. So therefore, it is the time frame that I will achieve that which I'm here to achieve within. The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Please read that book. Realise that the only time that exists is now, and that the power is always within your hand. And as a technique that I would like to share with you in a moment, it's all to do with the separation of depression. When I got to the point where I was acceptant enough, once I'd acknowledged and I was acceptant enough of being in this state of depression, when I went to the doctors, they obviously diagnosed me with depression. They put a label upon me, and that's the label I carried. And then I was on medication for 2 years. And that medication is poison. It literally poisoned me. It took away everything. I was already void of emotion, and that just put a Tupperware box on it to the point I couldn't feel anything. And over a long period of time, just walking around empty, nothing, nothingness. My children, I would look upon them and I wouldn't feel the attachment, the connection to them that I knew was there. And then I would judge myself and condemn myself for not being able to feel the love for my children. I would condemn myself for not being more positive. I would condemn myself for not being the man that I knew that I was. And layer on layer, I put more and more self-judgment, more and more ridicule, more and more guilt upon myself. And all these layers separated me more and more from the truth. But it was all part of the process. And as I've said before, only in the darkness can we then discover the light. And we need the darkness for the light to shine within. Life was like wandering around in a foggy maze. I wasn't sure who I really was, what I was doing, where I was going, or the point in any of it. I was trying to achieve things outside myself. I was trying to develop a property empire. I was working tirelessly towards material gains and a feeling of security within the system that we are working now towards actually dissolving and stepping away from. Depression is one of the most difficult experiences that anybody can go through, one of the most demoralizing experiences. But once again, only by going into complete darkness did I stop. Did I stop wandering around in the fog, trying to find a destination or a direction towards a destination, anywhere but here. Where am I going? Who am I? I'm empty. I need to fill myself, complete myself with something, with someone. In the darkness, I stopped, and for the first time ever, I could see the direction the light was coming from. This took a while. It took a while for me to stop to the point where I'd almost given up completely, to then look around and to go, ooh, it's coming from over there. In the fog, we can see the light to a degree, but there's no indication of where it's coming from because the fog disperses that light over a large area. And the darkness is clear to see the direction. And I travelled towards that light. And it's my favourite little rift because it's the most meaningful to me. I journeyed towards the light and I found a door. And I knew that I could stay by that door, basking in the light that was shining from the crack underneath it, because the door was locked and it required a key. And I didn't have the key. I was unable to open the door. I knew that if I remained outside the door that I would never find completion or that feeling of contentment that I knew existed on the other side, because it connected to my very core and yearned me, guided me, pulled me towards it. So I ventured back into the maze and discovered the key. And the key was at the centre. And the key was love. It is love that is the answer. It is love that is the key. A key that will unlock a door deep within and set not only you, but the whole world free. It's always love. And this is the foundation to my teachings and the reason that I am who I am today. Anytime somebody tries to show you anything other than love, return to love yourself and dissolve it into the light, into the love. The darkest of rooms is illuminated by even a single candle. No amount of darkness added will extinguish that light. Yet by igniting a further candle, by inspiring another person, by doing what I do, I further illuminate that room. As with every candle that is lit, it only further illuminates the area that they're within. It doesn't take away from the first candle, it only adds the light to the room. And the more darkness that you have previously had surround you, the area of darkness that if you are in the midst, in the middle, in the depths of depression, imagine yourself in that ball, and the further out that depression seems to be, to the point where there's nothing around you but darkness. Light requires darkness to shine within. The larger the area of darkness that you have previously had or have now surrounding you, the larger the area that you have to fill with that light. And that light comes from within, inner completion comes from within, and it is meditation that is key to all of this. It's all to do with the separation from the ego self that believes I have depression, I am this person, I am Kain Stromberg, I am a father, I work here, I do this, etc., etc. And it's returning to the cosmic consciousness of I. I am infinite, I am eternal, I am all that is, was, or ever shall be. I am you as you are me. We are all that ever was or shall be. Universal energy dancing rhythmically and majestically in this game, in this play that we call life. And even scientifically, they cannot deny that this is right. So the tip and trick and technique, what I'd like for you to do is to, every time you have a negative thought, a depressive thought, any thought which makes you feel limited or lower, any thought which is heavy, allow it. First of all, you have to accept, acknowledge and allow. You can't stop the thoughts, you have to allow them and then learn to disattach from them, because they are not you. They are happening within you and they do not define you. The clouds in the sky, are the clouds the sky, or are they happening within the sky? Are they floating within the sky? Do you condemn the sky when there is a cloud within it? Or do you try to control the cloud? Actually going, oh, I see you, grey cloud, with all that rain. I don't like you, I don't want you. Actually, I'm going to focus on you really intently, and then maybe that will make you move. Maybe that will make you go away. Or do you just accept the clouds, knowing that sometimes there are beautiful, wispy, white, fluffy clouds that look like unicorns or dolphins, and other times there are big, heavy, repressive, dark, thunderstorm producing clouds. You can't control the clouds. You just accept them and allow them to flow by. You can't control, to start with, your thoughts. Just accept them and allow them to flow by. But through this series of videos, and I do suggest that if you share these with anybody at a later date, that you start from the beginning, because it's a step-by-step guide, a step-by-step process that I have used and that I am now bringing to you. So once again, ensure that you're subscribed to the channel, Cosmic Surfer, and head over to Mainstream Meditation and subscribe to our YouTube guided meditation channel. Guided meditations, chakra cleansing meditations, inner child integration, hypnotic sessions, and I will be releasing the book that we are in the middle of creating, Beginner's Guide to Meditation Mastery, as an audio series on YouTube as well, to bring it in the most utilizable and reachable way possible, to get it out there to as many people as possible. So, the technique that I would ask that you use is to separate that feeling of depression from yourself. Not to think that I have depression, but that depression is a state that has been labelled that I am experiencing. I'm not depressed. I'm not depression. I am me. I am infinite potential, and I am going to actually create the life of my dreams in this moment of now. Take that thought when it comes up and write it down on some paper. Get yourself an old shoebox, and every single thought that you've written down you can put in the shoebox. This is allowing for the ego mind to still be able to claim authority, ownership. The ego will do all it can to actually stop you from breaking free from its control. Its food, its sustenance is conscious energy. So every time you're stuck in a thought of the past or the future, it's the ego that is doing this. In the moment of now, the only time that exists being now, you are free, as everything is perfect now, and it always is perfect now. It's only the forward projection of a potential negative event or the memory of a negative past event which causes that state of upset, unrest. Think about being in that beautifully euphoric state when you're listening to your favourite song and you can tune in to every single word, every single vibration of the frequency of that music. Life is perfect, life is blissful. Music brings you into now. Meditation brings you into now. Being creative, artistic brings you into now. And it bypasses the ego. And to start with, it will try to actually hold on to and claw on to, keep in control. So actually, before we start the 5 Steps to Freedom section of the series, before we talk about acknowledgement and then acceptance, I would like to talk about the ego next week and how to break free from its grip, how to bypass its tricks and its layers of illusion and separation and the mirrors that it places up. Separate that thought, write it down, and then you can let it go. You can tell the part of you that is the ego that thought is still there. It's actually created in the physical. It's not only within your head, but you have created it in the material world. It exists in the physical realm now. Therefore, it's even more solidity to it. It has more weight to it, but it is able to flow away from you. The ego will be content with this, and you can say to the ego, anytime that you want to go back and hold that thought, embody that vibration of depression, you can go and open the shoebox, and you can swim in all of the letters, all of the writings. But for now, that thought is actually taking me away from where we're going, taking us away from where we're going. I thank you for bringing up that thought, which is a potential danger of the future or memory of the past that was less than pleasant. But actually repeating that same chapter in my book, continuously watching that same episode on repeat of the program, of the show of your life, is not beneficial. It's not getting you anywhere. It's not going to create anything positive for the self. The ego is there to protect you, and keeping you locked in that loop is keeping you safe from future potentials. If you stay where you are in Groundhog Day, you know what to expect, but you are limiting your experiences. Write it down, and then to start with, maybe you look in the box. You write things down through the day, you get them out, you read them after an hour, and you look at it and you go, okay, I can see how that was a thought that was negative, and from this new perspective I have separated from attachment to it. At the end of the day, you put them in the shoebox, and you do this through the week. And then maybe at the weekend you feel a bit low, a bit alone. You go through the week, there's people that you see at work, etc., etc. If you're back at work, unless you're working from home, that is, in this situation. And then perhaps at the weekend, perhaps on Sunday, you've gone out and had a nice weekend, Saturday night, Sunday, and then Sunday night rolls around and you feel a bit lost. So you get out your letters and you swim and you connect to that state of depression. It's allowing the ego the ability to choose to go there, but also you, the knowledge that it is not you and that you're able to separate from it and then go back to it as and when you desire. Over a period of time, you will look in the box less and less. You will write down things less and less, and then one day, I would suggest in 2 to 3 months after doing this, which is a long time, but if you do not do anything in 2 to 3 months, you'll be exactly the same, in exactly the same place, feeling and experiencing exactly the same state. Medication just masks it and allows for things to be processed in the background. The subconscious mind is always processing information. Sleep on it is a perfect expression because you have an idea or information, you have a jigsaw puzzle which is incomplete, you go to sleep and you wake up in the morning and the subconscious mind has completed it for you. Right, next time I'm going to bring the proper stand so that we're not experiencing this. It slowly slides down on one of the brackets. There we go. Anyway, 2 to 3 months, you take that shoebox and you burn it, and you release all of that negative energy which is housed within that box upon those pieces of paper in that ink work that you have created. You have taken that negative thought out of your head, you have separated attachment to it, placed it in the physical, where then you are able to then separate, release from it, and then eventually when you are ready to set it free, to return that energy to the universe where it will be reclaimed, re-cleansed and redistributed where it is required. Energy cannot be destroyed. A negative thought is a negative thought. It needs to be allowed. If you try to repress it, it will become like water that is blocked. It will become stagnant, putrid, and then start to actually rot and fester, detrimentally affecting all life within that body of water, all elements of the self. And through the journey of depression, you will start to then become angry. And anger is the first, that I remember, the first emotional state where I was like, oh, I can actually feel. And I like to feel angry. And that led to the whole getting big and angry and looking for anger everywhere. Because it was better to feel something than nothing. And again, when you get to that point in the journey, if I have not yet made a video about it, then please reach out to me and I will let you know how to actually redistribute it. But the way I was shown it was that there was a hill and there was a ball, and whichever direction the ball rolled down, it creates a divot down the hill. The ball used to roll down the angry track. It was like I'd seen a ball and a train. The ball was the divot, the train was the track. It would go down the same track. And the more that it runs down the track, the deeper the divot becomes and the more natural it becomes. And you believe yourself to be angry, you believe yourself to be depressed, you believe yourself to be whatever it is because you have experienced it so many times. It takes 1,000 hours of repetition to create a new neurological pathway in the brain. I can remove an old limiting belief, detach an old pathway and create a new one within a single session, a 2-hour session. This is an investment in all ways, but it is an investment that will liberate you and set you free forever. You spend thousands of pounds on going on holiday. Why not instead spend the money on a lifetime holiday, a lifetime of freedom from the limitations of old? So, the way to distribute the energy, to redirect the energy, is not to stop the ball rolling down the hill because it builds up and builds up and builds up and eventually it will explode. So instead you catch the ball just before it goes over that edge and then you change the direction. And that is some very simple tips, tricks and techniques which I've included in the Anxiety Freedom course on greatestversion.club. So actually go over there now, take that course. Something just as simple as there's a pathway here of potential negativity. I've had a depressive thought and I'm starting to go down that pathway of depression. Change it to something positive, something you're grateful for. Focus upon that and walk down that pathway instead. As where your attention goes, your energy flows, and what you then focus upon grows. Grow the flowers in your garden. Focus your light of attention as though you were the sun on the flowers, on all the positives, and grow them to such a size you cannot see the weeds. If you focus on the weeds, even with a want to remove them, you will be focusing your light of attention on them and growing them. Again, I know this firsthand. I had 2 aspects that I did not ever want to experience because I did not ever want to be like my father. I didn't want to be anything like him. I didn't want to be him. So the 2 aspects that were the deepest wounds in myself through my childhood experiences that I didn't ever want my children to experience, I focused on to such an extent. It was the only real thought that was going around my head whilst I was in that place of depression and low vibration, to the point that I had no alternative but to experience that. Because I had limited my pathway to only experiencing those 2 things, because it was the only thought, the only vibration that was going around in my head. But yet again, as always, everything is divine, and if it was not for every experience that I have been part of, that I have experienced, that I have created, then I would not be here now. I would not be sharing this information, and I would not be able to bring you the freedom and liberation from those traumas, from those negative states of being. So next week is going to be the ego. This is going to be a series of quite long videos to start with, and then actually when we get into the later stages, the 5 steps to freedom, and then we're going to go on to pillars of a happy existence, the pillars of a happy life, the pillars of support and structure to build your life, your roof upon. Strong foundations, strong pillars, strong roof. Yeah. So go back and watch last week's if you did not, and then make sure that you subscribe and hit the notification button to catch next week's, where we'll talk about the ego compromise as well as ego death, the difference in them and which one is more beneficial, which one to do, which one to choose, as it is all just a label, and everything that we label we then limit to that label. Ego death, ego compromise, as always, is the middle ground. I love you. I'm here for you. If you have any questions, please just reach out. Please comment below or head over to Instagram or Facebook at Cosmic Surfer and send me a private message there, and I will do my utmost to reply in as quick a time as possible, although it is all within divine time. And if any of you are serious about a journey towards inner completion and self-mastery, then I'm here to guide you all the way back home to the eternal aspect, the infinite aspect of self. I am honoured, truly, truly honoured to have been given the abilities that I now possess and to be able to exercise them daily. Thank you for who you are and everything you do. Now and forever, we are in this together. United we stand, and together we rise. Grand rising, all you beautiful souls. And until next time, namaste.